This is the Fearless Finance Podcast with Amy Ross. Amy and the team at Gold Shield Wealth are dedicated to helping adults plan for and manage the hurdles they may face on their journey to retirement. Get more, including contact information in the show notes. Now, Fearless Finance with financial advisor Amy Ross.
My name is Mark Owens. Amy, how is this weekend treating you?
You know, it's amazing. It's kind of busy, though. I'm in panic mode, trying to pack for a little vacation I'm about to go on. So I'm like a little girl, just trying to make sure I get... But I'm not packing for business this time, Mark. I get to pack swimsuits and flip-flops and cover-ups and all the things that I actually don't own because I think I work too much, maybe. I think this vacation is long overdue.
Full transparency, we're recording a couple of days early this week because as this is airing, you're on the beach. You're down in the Bahamas. You and Andrew are living your best life because you deserve it.
You know, I have been to the Bahamas, but I've never been to Baja Mar.
Right.
And that resort, if the online pictures are not exaggerating things, I think it's going to be exactly what I need for a little R&R, you know, because we all need that, right? Sure. And I spend a lot of time, you know, my brain never stops. So to be able to go somewhere to where I'll almost be forced to make it stop, I need that sometimes.
Do you find that you're able to shut it down and get off the grid?
That one's a tough one for me because my nature is I like to be there for my clients. And one thing that I tell them all is like, if you need me, I'm going to be more upset if you don't reach out to me. They'll all tell you that I always respond, even if it's a heart or a thumbs up. I acknowledge them. So that's really hard for me. So this time I'm going to try because I have someone that's taking calls for me that has good judgment that if it is a true emergency, they will get through to me. So I'm just praying for no emergencies, right? that it'll be something that Rob can just handle. Without needing to reach out. But you know what? I would never, ever put my relaxation before one of my clients' needs. That's just not who I am, if you really want the honest truth. Andrew sometimes might have to hide my phone to keep me from looking, you know, just in case.
I want to pivot and talk about vacations as a whole. And it's almost like a cliche, Amy, and you hear that people often plan for vacations more than they plan for their retirement.
That's real life. People are short-sighted. They think about the here and the now, and they don't think about it, but retirement's the longest vacation they're ever going to go on, and it's the least planned, the least thoroughly planned for most people.
Right.
I feel like being a good advisor to someone is being able to have those difficult and those hard conversations. You know, I am not a yes ma'am person. I'm going to tell, if someone sits down in front of me, you know, I'm going to tell them what I'm going to shoot you straight, you know, and like, you know, I wouldn't say, well, you're being an idiot. You know, I'm not that cold, but I would say, you know, you're using extremely bad judgment right now, putting this trip that's going to be over in 5 days ahead of something that could last you for 20 years. You know, how about we pump the brakes and we'll put that into the retirement plan? Because obviously you like to travel and spend money doing that, but let's wrap it both in together the way you're at least prepared to be able to do that long term.
Let me give that number to have these conversations with Amy Ross about building your best life with the help of the team at Gold Shield Wealth. 843-585-5223. Again, 843-585-5223. And as we're talking about going to Disney or going to the Bahamas, there are some people that are saying, Amy, I'm ready to retire right now. And maybe I had a retirement date circled for a couple of years from now, but can I pull the trigger? Can I retire a little bit earlier? Is it possible to retire a year, year and a half, 2 years earlier than even planned?
Well, that really depends on how well have you prepared. But, you know, I always like to give a little grace to people and give them the right to change their mind. You know, and sometimes things just... You know, I'm working with someone right now to where, you know, the plan was to make it 2 more years, but the work environment is so toxic, it's not healthy anymore. So I'm a firm believer in that our happiness means everything. You know, we are not promised to live to be 80 or 90. So my suggestion is, you know, if you're thinking that and you think, oh, potentially I might want to just go ahead and get out, you know, give me a call at 843-585-5223 and I will sit down with you and we'll look at numbers because numbers just don't lie. We can map it out, but we have to know what standard of living do you want to have throughout retirement. So we're not making knee-jerk reactions as to what we want to do. Sometimes you do need to stick it out, but you don't know unless you ask and you look.
Yeah. And there's no bad questions. You shouldn't feel guilty about saying like...
Ever. I get more mad at people for not asking me questions because there's no question that is dumb when you're talking about your life savings. And that's what we're talking about, is everything that you have hoarded up and worked for blood, sweat, and tears. Some of you listeners for 40 years or more. So, it is what it is. You got to treat it with respect.
All right. Well, I got a question for you, and we mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. The full body scan of your retirement plan. It's what you offer, no cost, no obligation from the team at Gold Shield Wealth. Amy, what is that? What is the full body scan of my retirement?
Well, it comes from my healthcare background of wanting to, I worked in cancer planning, treatment planning. And so in order to know exactly where the tumor was located inside of the patient's body, I had to learn to read CT scans and draw actual anatomy on them. And so when I decided to go into finance and became a financial advisor, it reminded me of that. I'm like, I need to do a full body scan of this stuff so that I know where all the inner parts are lying. And so I just kind of gave it that nickname. I give everything, and I give all my clients nicknames too, Mark.
The full body scan of your retirement plan. It's no cost, no obligation to you this weekend. If you've saved at least $250,000 or more for your retirement, congratulations. You've done a fantastic job of saving for your next chapter. 843-585-5223. Online at goldshieldwealth.com. And maybe there's some questions you need to ask yourself if you're ready to retire a little bit earlier than you anticipated. There was a Northwestern Mutual study that says retirement planning comes down to 3 questions. Those questions are: what's coming in, what's going out, and what have you saved? So, Amy, is it really that simple? Let's start at the beginning. Ask yourself, what's coming in? What does that mean?
You know what, Mark? Honestly, in my opinion, it is that simple. There's obviously moving parts to the simplicity of that, but it is that simple. You have to look at what's coming in. And I generally like to look at stable forms of income for that, guaranteed forms of income, Social Security amounts, pensions, if you're lucky enough to still have one. What kind of income streams can we also create from savings that you have? So to me, that's what's coming in. What can we rely on? We don't want to have total reliance on the stock market, in my opinion, for guaranteed income that you may need to live off of. And then also, the biggest disconnect that I run into with people, and I have funny ways of making them get me the answer, but most people have no idea what their actual expenses are. They just don't. It's a joke. It's really funny sometimes, the things that they tell me. It's usually $1,500, $2,000 short by the time you add up the lawn service and the pest control and the cable bill and all of these things that people just really do not think about. And I have went as analog and old school as having people actually collect receipts for, just their fly by night, gas station spending. You think about it. You go in the Circle K, you're going to walk out to get a cup of coffee. If you grab a snack, you've dropped $8 there now in today's environment. So that's where the disconnect is people see, I have $5,000. I can live off that, but they don't really realize how fast 5,000 goes these days. So, that to me is, probably the biggest thing.
I didn't even realize we had a charge that popped up through Apple that we were paying $5 a month on both of our phones for extra storage. I don't know when I bought this. I don't know when.
There's so many of those things. I printed, obviously tax season makes you do things you don't want to do, right? So I went through a bunch of my credit card statements and I'm like, Andrew, what even is half this stuff?
Yeah.
And you don't think about it, but $2.99 here, $4.99 there. Oh, I want to try this app on Facebook tonight. I want to click yes. Next thing you know, they're billing you for stuff and people are just complacent about it, myself included, because you're like, $4 here, $7. But by the time you add it up, it is a lot of money that in turn, if you really want to, shove it over into an investment account, right? At least get something out of it. If you just want to blow it, put it somewhere that matters, which then comes into the second part of what you just asked me. You got to look at what you have saved. People think, I have $500,000 and I'm 65 years old. I am freaking rich. Not really. Not really. That's where you really have to take into account of how long do you think you're going to live? Look at how much taxes is going to eat away at that. So many things that are disconnected that you need to sit down with a financial professional who actually knows how to navigate these things and point things out to you to keep you from hurting yourself. If you'd like that to be me, give me a call, 843-585-5223. I think I have some appointments available week after next. I'll be ready and raring to go and rested up. So give me a call.
Now's the best time to talk to Amy
That's right.
Ross,
It's when you want to catch me. It's right after I'm rested up. You think I'm spicy now. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be sitting on the beach and you're going to be trying to read a book, but you can't shut your brain off. You're going to be thinking about business. You're going to think about office. You're going to be thinking about your clients, and you're going to have 500 ideas. And you're going to come back and you're going to be so fired up and ready to talk to your people. Am I wrong?
No, and honestly, a lot of times, I don't know. It's just things just hit me. Like I said, my brain doesn't shut down very often, but I am going to be with a lot of brilliantly minded colleagues as well, which is amazing on these business. We're always trying to, I am proud to say that I work amongst some of the best financial advisors in the entire country that aren't just good at what they do, but they're ethical and they want to do the right thing. And those are the people that I really enjoy surrounding myself with. So this time, I'm sure that I always pick up little nuggets of information from people when I go, but more so relaxation is just hanging out and getting to know each other on a non-business level for this trip.
Which inevitably turns into a business conversation.
It does, because we're all business owners. Every one of us, we all have the same minds. So usually it's the spouses are over in one corner smoking cigars, and then us advisors are like, wait a minute, did you run into this? Have you ever seen that? We're just sharing ideas and thoughts, and it's fun.
Hey, speaking of questions, another question from this Northwestern Mutual study that said, what have you saved? How do you find, Amy, that people don't realize how much they really have prepared for retirement?
Well, and that's what I was saying. A lot of people, $500,000 they think is an extravagant amount of money, or $250,000. I run into that a lot. But that's where if you just blindly look at this pile of money and say, oh, I have $500,000, and you have no actual strategy as to how to use it, that's where you can get burned. If you have millions, $5, $6, $10 million, if, the strategy isn't as important, but if you're trying to retire on $1 million or less, that's where, you only have so much to work with. You need to stretch every dollar as far as you can and make sure those dollars are placed in places with intention. So that's where, the tax planning comes in, the decumulation strategies, those really come in to where just the general Joe walking around, they don't know how to do that, nor do they want to.
Always thinking about your taxes, always thinking about income, always thinking about risk. The team at Gold Shield Wealth, 843-585-5223. The three questions you can ask yourself right now. What's coming in with my income? How much am I spending? And what have I saved? Or maybe you just want to ask yourself, am I doing okay? You've had that before, Amy.
Oh, absolutely. And, I actually just have a client that I signed on about 6-7 months ago. And she was kind of in that mindset of wanting to go into retirement, but feeling guilty about spending her money, and so that I run into that sometimes. And sometimes people just want permission, and they just want someone that they value their opinion and they trust to say, hey, it's okay. And so that's where I feel like Gold Shield Wealth, my business model is I want to add more value to your life than just the portfolio. That's the biggest honor ever, is kicking people out the door to go travel and spend that money because you work so hard for it. That's truly, I know I say it every week practically, but it really is my favorite part. I love it.
And it's spendophobia. We've talked about that before here on the show. The people that are afraid to spend their money for whatever reason.
They are. And I mean, rightfully so, if it's all you have and you don't want to go back to work and you're afraid of living too long. I mean, that's one of the retirees' biggest fear is outliving their money. And so if you're worried that you're going to need that dollar bill, how can you go spend it with any type of confidence at all or enjoy it? You can't.
I want to hear you get sassy with somebody and be like, go spend your money, honey.
Oh, I have. I could probably get some guest clients on here that would laugh and have some good old Amy stories for you.
I thought I was doing okay, and she got mad at me.
Well, one thing I do say to people a lot of times if they've got, I'm like, you got some money to spend. What are we spending it on? Come on now. What do we got to spend it on?
843-585-5223. There are no bad questions. Again, maybe you just want to know, can I retire a little bit earlier than anticipated? Or, Amy, where am I? How am I doing? I think I've done a good job. I've got a solid 401k. My wife or my husband has a pension. What can we do next? It's the full body scan of your retirement plan. It's no cost, no obligation if you've saved at least $250,000 or more for your retirement. And again, that's really where the power begins to start building upon the gains in your retirement portfolio. GoldShieldWealth.com or 843-585-5223. And Amy, let's get back to it, because speaking of excursions and experiences, how do you go from Mar-a-Lago down to the Bahamas? You are living your best life, young lady.
It's been a good year so far, I must say. I can't complain.
So last week, over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about our experience down in Mar-a-Lago. We had the opportunity to go sit down and have a Q&A, a one-on-one with Donald Trump Jr. And you can hear all of these clips that we're playing, our entire conversation, when you stream the Fearless Finance podcast, you can stream it from the homepage at goldshieldwealth.com. And Amy, I want to dip back into some of these conversation pieces. And here's Donald Trump Jr. talking about the American dream and is it still attainable?
I think it's 100% achievable. I mean, I think it always changes, right? It's ever changing. I think a big part of what led my father to get into this political thing, this crazy game that, we've been in now for a decade, was to ensure that Americans actually still had a chance to live that dream, right? I mean, for the last few decades, we took our middle class and we destroyed it by sending it, abroad. The only export that America really had was basically your American dream. We took it and we sent it to every other place so someone could save 0.2 cents on a widget, and we shattered that. When you have systems that you look at some of whether it's welfare, whether it's our education system, the amount of money that's going to pay for illegal immigrants and at the expense of American citizens, whether it's in education, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in infrastructure, just across the board. So wait a minute, if that money was actually going to the American taxpayer who's paying for these services, we could actually be in such a better place. But the political system doesn't reward, actually making people succeed. It rewards people who become dependent because then they're always going to vote for you, and it perpetuates that sort of vicious cycle. And so I think ensuring that the American dream remains available for Americans, it's sort of crazy that saying that is controversial these days, right? I mean, like, what other civilization in the world ever didn't put their own people first, right? And so, I do think that dream exists. America is an incredible place of innovation. You see all of the stuff going on with AI. If people actually start focusing on the right things, if we start focusing on educating our kids to adapt these kind of technologies, I think that dream can be there in abundance. If we don't do that and we focus on, the 4,396 genders, and that's what our kids are learning in school rather than, math, English. No, it's amazing when you have entire, counties in this country where kids are, they're graduating because, the teachers don't get paid if they don't graduate them through. So they just lower the standard so everyone can get through. But, they can't read at a fourth grade level, but they're graduating high school. They can't do math at the third grade level. They're graduating high school. That's sad, and that's not going to enable the American dream for those children. And the fact that you're creating this level of dependence is also going to prevent a lot of other Americans who are going to end up having to subsidize this at the expense of being able to maximize their opportunity is also scary.
He's not wrong, Amy Ross. He makes some good points right there.
Spot on.
As we hear that clip from Donald Trump Jr. talking about, is the American dream still attainable? And I want to flip that to what you do every single day. Is that dream of the retirement where you don't have to worry about income, where you can live your best life after you clock out for the last time, is that still attainable?
It absolutely is. The one thing about the generation that's retiring today is the majority of them were very diligent savers. A lot of them were. So it's absolutely attainable and achievable. Again, I say, look at what you want your standard to be. I think to me, everybody's version of the American dream is different. Mm-hmm. Right? I think the way that you would describe yours is probably different than I would describe mine. But if you think about it, the American dream has been evolving for years. It's always evolved. Do you think the people living in the 50s, their American dream was the same vision that you and I have? Right? So of course it's available and it's achievable and attainable. But, sometimes to take advantage of the American dream, you need help to figure out how. And that's the fear that retirees face in retirement. So it's not impossible, and it's definitely achievable for most people and very attainable. Yeah. But it's just, figuring it out.
And everybody's is different. Everybody's
is different.
Yeah, somebody's retirement dream could be, you heard about that couple book like 52 independent cruises. So every week they were on a cruise.
I have clients here in Myrtle Beach that probably go on 10 or 20 cruises every single year. I just signed on a client yesterday that he and his wife have a house here, but they have an RV.
Yeah.
What is your American dream? And that's actually one thing that at the very beginning of one of my dinner seminars, if you come see one of those, you'll laugh, because that's one thing I think is like, what do you want your retirement to be? You've worked all the years, you're here now, go live the dream.
How do we help get you there? It's the full body scan of your retirement plan, no cost, no obligation, from Amy and the team at Gold Shield Wealth, 843-585-5223. And before we play this next clip from Donald Trump Jr., for those that may not have heard last week's show, Amy, paint the picture. Why were we in Mar-a-Lago? And from your experience, what was it like?
It was magical. I don't know. People ask me all the time, like, how was it? It was eye-opening, I guess, in a way. to see all the security and like the dogs sniffing the big bus we were on, and then all of that. But the grounds, I mean, perfectly manicured. The ballroom is definitely the showstopper, right? I mean, that's unreal. All the gold on the walls and the columns. If you look on my Facebook page, there's several pictures. I think there's one of Mark and I on there that's quite funny outside of a restroom. I won't call it what I did last week because I might have gotten beeped out. I'm not even sure, but
it did.
But it did. Did you all censor me?
You got censored. You can hear that on the podcast.
Can't censor me in my office, though. I can tell the real story if you come see me here.
And we were in the ballroom where Donald Trump Jr. got married a week ago. You sent me a picture.
Yes, and it's so funny. I said that to Andrew. We were looking at pictures and stuff on TV. I'm like, wait a second. I said, I think that's that bathroom that Mark and I took a picture in front of. For real, I saw it because they're standing in front of it. You can see it in the back.
Yep.
And I'm like, how blessed are we to have been able to get into a place like that, to actually see it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even fathom having a fraction of the type of money and lifestyle that they have, much less to be able to sit down with the president's son and hear him just talk to us, like shoot us straight about how life was. I mean, it was just a neat experience, one that I truly will never forget.
Donald Trump Jr., it was the opportunity for us and a handful of people in the industry. We were able to go down to Mar-a-Lago, have lunch, hear from Donald Trump Jr., had cocktails by the pool, live music, just a really, truly bucket list moment, all up underneath that huge 4-story Old Glory, the biggest American flag I've probably ever seen in my life.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
And again, you can see those pictures when you give the team a follow, Gold Shield Wealth, give them a follow on social media. And speaking of Donald Trump Jr. being straightforward and honest with us, he told us where he was the day he got the call that his father had been shot. Now, to kind of preface, to pick it up where we were at, he was talking about his daughter, Kai, who's all involved in golf. She's a teenager. She calls and says, Dad, let's go fishing. And that's where we pick it up.
You know, on, I guess it was July 13th of 2 years ago, when they tried to kill my father, I got the weird call that morning from her. And she's like, Dad, can you take me and a couple friends out fishing? And I'm like, who are you and what have you done with my daughter? And we go out and we take her fishing. We're having a great day and catching fish. And we get this call like, Don, they tried to kill your dad. I'm like, well, what do you mean tried to kill? Well, he's been shot. I'm like, and we don't know. I'm like, you don't know? I start calling and stuff like that. Got home as quickly as possible. And for 90 minutes, we didn't know if he was alive or not. So we didn't know for 90 minutes. And finally, it's me, my brother, my sister, my kids had come over to my house by that time. We're just on speakerphone, and we get a call, and we're all talking, and it's my dad, and sort of big adrenaline dump. He's okay, and but it's sort of an awkward moment. So I was just like, okay, I just got to ask, how's the hair? Don, the hair's fine. A lot of blood, Don. It was and my sister's looking at me like I'm an idiot, like an imbecile. Again, some genes you can't turn off. I was like, yeah, guys, I know it's awkward, but we had to break the ice. This was kind of a morose conversation, and we just sort of hung out as a family, and really, it was, that night, just sort of, that adrenaline dump. It was like you ran 5 marathons and just exhausted. But
great storytelling from Donald Trump.
It was.
Jr.
He was just real. That's why I like people like that. He just was just normal. He seemed normal.
Yeah, that was part 2 of our conversation. You can hear the rest of it when you go stream the Fearless Finance podcast. Again, homepage at Gold Shield Wealth. And we appreciate Donald Trump Jr. for opening up.
Mark, I want to say something that, I want to point out. A lot of times we don't think that we're alike, but as humans, we are all so very similar. Mm-hmm. We really are. We want the same things. We need the same things. We want security. We want people we can trust. And to think about how filthy rich the Trump family is, but when it really came down to what mattered, think about it. It was about the feelings, right? He had those same feelings of, oh my God, I might be losing my dad. So they just really made me think that, people really do. We all put our pants on the same way every day, no matter what stage of life we're in.
Yeah. And I think not to get on a rant, but I think the news, their goal is to divide us because they need the clicks and they need the views.
Exactly. That's why I want to say that. Yes.
I think at the end of the day, we're all very similar.
We're all people.
Somebody made a good point once. They said if the news was honest, they'd come on every single night, 11 o'clock news, and say 99% of the country was on their best behavior today. Here's the 1% that cause some issues.
Exactly. Yep. And it gets old, doesn't it?
It does.
To me, it gets very old.
Yeah. But Amy wants to give you that life where you don't have to worry about the news. You don't have to watch the headlines every day. You can spend it living your best life in retirement. 843-585-5223. Again, 843-585-5223.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Gold Shield Wealth Financial. Gold Shield Wealth is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Gold Shield Wealth Financial are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Gold Shield Wealth Financial and IPW are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Gold Shield Wealth is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gold Shield Wealth. This radio show is a paid placement. Any and all services related to Medicare are an outside business activity and are not offered through or supervised by Impact Partnership Wealth, IPW, LLC. Gold Shield Wealth has a strategic partnership with tax professionals and attorneys who can provide tax and or legal advice.